Now's the time for a collective deep dig into pathways, the pathways presentation mastery and engaging humour. And this is going to be led by our chief archaeologist and self-taught pathways master, Michael Clancy. And this presentation is followed by a Q&A session. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you. And first thing I've got to do is share my screen. And we'll share that one. There you go. For those that need it, there is my email. I am happy to follow up on things with email. Write it down while you have a chance. Oh, that's not what I want to show. I'll just reshare that. That's better. There you go. That's what I want to share. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Not a wink of thumb. I'm happy with all those. Today we're going to go through one part of pathways, and I call this area the keynote speaker area. I've looked at pathways in a large number of ways, and I came up with 4 different areas for pathways. They were keynote speaker, a couple other areas of which I can't remember, but basically the keynote speaker all end with a 20-minute speech at the end. Those are presentation mastery and engaging humour. Write your questions in the chat because there's plenty of time at the end for us to answer those questions. And if you get a question halfway through, it's easier to put them in the chat. There's also already some things in the chat which I will get back to hopefully before the end. I'm going to go through the pathways projects. What are the common projects to every path? And then I'm going to go deeply into presentation mastery and engaging humour. So that's my aim for today. So we're talking about pathways here, and it is confusing. There are so many different paths. There are 5 things that pathways purports to give you in its paths. They are public speaking, interpersonal communication, strategic leadership, management, and confidence. And really today we're talking about number 1, public speaking, and number 5, confidence. Those 2 are the prime deliverables of engaging humour and presentation mastery. If you look at how Toastmasters presents all its different paths, everyone has different aspects. Only 2 of them build on public speaking and speech writing as their goals. They are engaging humour and presentation mastery. Even though presentation mastery does not have speech writing there, it does help you with a number of projects that will help you with your speech writing. So as I said, I've looked at the pathways and broke them down to 4 areas. They were keynote speaker, leadership project, leadership service, and relationship building. And the difference is what they do in level 5. Leadership projects require you to do HPL in level 5. Leadership service requires you to be of service to your club, to your district in level 5. Relationship building is about building some relationships. And I'm happy to share this presentation if anybody wants it afterwards, so you don't have to do screenshots or take photos, because I noticed someone was taking my photo and I'm Very photogenic today. Well done, Phil. So today I'm talking about keynote speaker, the engaging humour and presentation mastery. That is the end game. And as I said, the 5 core competencies of public speaking and confidence are the 2 key competencies for these 2. You will get public speaking experience in every project. You will get confidence in every project, but only these 2 projects emphasize that and that alone. Those people that joined me for my session earlier would have already seen this, but every project is split up into 3 different types of, every path is broken up into 3 different types of projects. You have common, which is done by every path, and there are 5 common projects. It's all of level 1. It's your mentoring in level 2 and your reflection at level 5. And then you have your elective. Now, your electives are your choice, so you get to choose what it is you're going to do in your electives. So I'm not even going to start to think about those electives. You get to choose them. The emphasis is the 5 projects that lend to the flavour of each path. There are 2 projects at level 2, a project at level 3, a project at level 4, and a project at level 5. These are what is different in every path. So of the 14 projects in every path, only 5 make it unique. All the others share the same DNA. Some projects that are mandatory in one path will be an elective that you can do in another path. But some projects may not appear in any other path. So don't assume that you can do this. If you see a project that you want to do, that you can do it anywhere. So let's start with the common ones so we can get those out of the way. Hopefully everybody's done an icebreaker. You don't even need to be in Pathways to do an icebreaker. It is available outside of Basecamp. You then have your evaluation and feedback, which is 2 speeches and serving as an evaluator. So the first speech you give, you get an evaluation for that speech. You take on board that evaluation speech and you change that speech or have a new speech which shows that you've listened to your evaluation, and you give an evaluation to someone else. Then you have research and presenting, where you research a topic and you have to have a couple of pages of where you got your notes from. You have a speech outline that helps you deliver that speech. The outline is a good source. It tells you how to present your speech. So look at those projects when you're eligible. You've got your path. And then you deliver a 5 to 7 minute speech. With level 2, you deliver a 5 to 7 minute speech on your experience of mentoring. It's not a speech about mentoring, it's about your experience of mentoring. Level 3, you need to, by level 3, you can do these any other time. You can do them level 1, level 2, doesn't matter. As long as, to complete level 3, you must have served as a Toastmaster, you must have served as a Topics Master, and you must have served as an evaluator, although it is not 100% clear whether that is the same as your level 1 serving as an evaluator. But my experience is for every speech you give, it needs to be evaluated. So therefore, for every speech you give, to be fair to the other members of your club, you would have given an evaluation. So by the time you get to level 3, you should have already done 7 evaluations. So you should have that one covered. The reflect on your path at level 5 is the last common item. And that is telling people what you have learnt during this path. My speech today is partially because I've learnt a lot from doing my speeches and looking at where my path is going. So it's about reflecting on what you've achieved. Those are the common projects. You have to do those no matter which path you choose. I will quickly touch on the elective projects. As you can see, there is a large range of choices. Those that are red are covered in this presentation as mandatory items for one of the two paths. So you can't choose them twice, but if you're doing one of the other paths, you will get to choose these as an elective. The Prepare to Speak Professionally in level 5 is your end project of your presentation mastery. But you can also do that if you're a sucker for 20-minute speeches and you're engaging humour speech. You can choose the Prepare to Speak Professionally as an elective. You get to do the same speech twice if you like. So you can learn different ways and cover 2 projects. You still have to deliver the speech. You can't just use the same speech for 2 projects. So as you can see, there is a large number of choices. You can choose to do 2 in level 3, or you can choose to do them all. It is your choice, but you must do at least 2. And again, in level 4, you must do 1, or you can do all of them. And level 5, you must do 1. You are a real sucker for punishment if you do them all, because there are some things there that you need to be aware of. Your high performance leadership is a large project where you have to have meetings with committees. You've got to do a large project. You've got to do a 6-month role in order to be leading in your volunteer organisation. So just be aware of those. But they're electives. You get to choose it. I can't tell you what you're going to do. So let's go deep into presentation mastery. This is the default project for all people who can't make up their mind in Pathways. Why? Because it is about what most people come to Toastmasters for, and that is public speaking.
Cheers.
This
Yes.
presentation, someone's not unmuted, so if you can make sure you're muted, please. This path helps build your skills as a public speaker. It's focusing on how an audience responds to you and improving your connection to other people. The projects in this help you understand techniques that you can use. It claims to help you with speech writing, and it does a little. Very much there is some speech delivery in here. And as I said, it ends with a 20-minute speech. Now, when I say 20 minutes, that means 18 to 22 minutes. I take the middle point. It's easier than saying 18 to 22. It's just an economy of words because we don't all have large amounts of time. So what is in presentation mastery? Well, we've already discussed level 1 because that is the same in every path. In level 2, you'll be doing effective body language. That is a project that most other paths allow you to do as an elective in level 3. You're doing that in level 2. Understanding your communication style. This is about helping you understand how you communicate. You do your introduction to Toastmasters mentoring, which is about reflecting on your mentoring. Level 3 is persuasive speaking. Now, this is the first real project that helps you build your skills. And then you have 2 electives. Level 4 is managing a difficult audience. Now, this can be a fun one, and we'll go into that a little bit later, but it is about responding to people and making sure you deliver your message. And level 5, prepare to speak professionally, that is your 20-minute speech. And then you reflect on your path. And of course, you have your 4 electives that you've got to do. So let's look at effective body language. This is something that is very important, even though we're all in Zoom. It's about delivering a speech and being aware of how you present yourself. At the moment, you can only see me shoulders up. If I'm using gestures that are below my shoulder, you are not going to see them unless I move back and then use big, expansive gestures. That is what this is all about. It's about watching yourself, how you deliver your speech. And that is why they say you should video your speech. Now, that's not necessarily a requirement, but you need to watch how you deliver speeches. Be aware what people are seeing of you. When we get out of COVID-19, we're meeting face to face. Yes, it will be about all those big gestures. Until then, it is about how you present yourself. I've got the train behind me, so are you staying on the right track? Using something in your presentation to make sure you're presenting well. And there are alternatives if you don't have a recording device. The only requirement of this is a 5 to 7 minute speech. And that speech can be on anything. So you have a wide range of choices. That's one of the beauties of Pathways, is there are a large number of speeches that give you a chance to talk about anything. Then we have understanding your communication style. This is your second level 2 project. And this is about your understanding of how you deliver your speeches, about how you communicate. The primary purpose of this is to learn about yourself. It's about self-reflection. And a lot of level 2 projects are self-reflection. It asks you to complete a questionnaire to help to identify your style. And then you get to deliver a 5 to 7 minute speech about how you feel about your communication style. It is not a report on this is your communication style that or these are the communication styles that are out there, because that is subjective depending on how you present it. You may also speak about what communication styles you've encountered. So how does other people's communication impact you? And the requirements are for this one is that you deliver a communication style questionnaire. You fill it in. And that's a very easy thing to do. It's online and it's for you only. You don't need to share this with anyone. The Discover Your Communication Style questionnaire is a simple thing to fill out. It's one of those Myers-Briggs type questionnaires. What's the least best one that you feel like? And that is a personal choice. My suggestion, whenever you fill out one of these questionnaires, don't do it when you're rushed. Do it when you have time to think about what you're trying to achieve. Do it when you're relaxed, not when you're under stress, because you'll give different answers. Don't do it in the car when you're dealing with road rage, because our communication then is usually single finger, maybe 2. I won't show you my fingers because that would be rude. So do it when you're relaxed, do it, because that way you'll learn more about you because you're thinking about the questions. If you're thinking about what you're having for dinner when you do this, it's not going to help. Level 3, persuasive speaking. This project focuses on helping you develop and support a viewpoint. What is your view on Donald Trump? It doesn't have to be positive. It can be balanced. It doesn't have to be negative. It's how you present it. They give you tools to help you do this. They give you tools. They take you through the processes by which you get to understand how persuasive speaking is obtained. You get to choose any topic. You don't have to do the same thing as everyone else. You can bring something about yourself into this. You can bring something about how you feel about COVID-19 or anything. It is open-ended. So a lot of these projects, as I said, are about what you want to deliver. You present the speech at the meeting. Well, everybody does that. And a lot of Pathways has this in there. You can do it outside of your club, as long as there's a Toastmaster present and your VPE approves of it. So the requirements for this one is a persuasive speech outline, which is a very useful tool, and I'll go through that in a sec, and a 5 to 7 minute speech. So the persuasive tool speech outline. Toastmasters has included a lot of wonderful things in their projects. When you open up your Basecamp and go in there, you will see at a point all those things that are required for your path. The project will give you wonderful insights. This persuasive speech outline helps you do point by point all the things that you need to achieve to be persuasive, so that you do not forget to say something in your speech. It has how do you capture, well, a point where you get to capture your audience attention. Describe the need for your persuasion, why you are trying to persuade people. What is the solutions? What are the objections? How can you visualize the change? And what is your call to action? They are the basis of a really good speech. If you're doing an international contest, get a hold of this project and use this sheet. Just be aware, it isn't, I think it's I think this one is an elective in another speeches, but I could be wrong. It may only be in presentation mastery. Managing a difficult audience. Now, this is a fun thing to do. This project, you deliver a speech, but that's not the purpose of this project. The purpose of this project is to deal with the audience. Who are you speaking to? Where are they coming from? Because if you're trying to do a speech and someone comes up with, is this a 5 to 7 minute speech or it's annoying. How do you deal with objections? How do you deal with interruptions? How do you deal with those sorts of things that take this speech to derail it? That is what this project is all about. I've seen this done really well. I've seen this done really badly. And when it's done really well, it's almost seamless. But when it's done badly, it's fun because everybody's trying to object at the same time. So just be aware of what the requirements are and stick to them, because having 15 people ask you, is this a 5 to 7 minute speech at 10 minutes into the speech is not, it may be funny, but it's also slightly annoying. So be aware. Be aware of what it's trying to achieve and organize your disruptions so that you know what you're doing. And then this is the ultimate, the prepare to speak professionally. This is your large speech. 20 minutes is a long time. Many people struggle with 5 to 7 minutes. Some DTMs accepted don't know how to be timed. No DTM knows how to be timed. It is about writing your speech to a larger audience for a specific purpose and making sure that it is not just rambling. You do not need to do this particular speech in your clubs because effectively it is almost 3 speeches that you could be doing in your club. So be aware when you're doing this, confirm with your VPE that it's okay for you to do a 20-minute speech. The VPE may also ask you to do it outside your club if you have an opportunity. If not, then you need to really persist and say, well, hey, this is part of my requirements. VPEs will bend over backwards to help you because they will realize this is near the end of your path, and there are 2 DCP points that enable them to tick off that you can help achieve if you finish your levels. So just be aware of that. 22-minute speeches are not easy to write. So they give you a speech outline. And this is all about how you write a longer speech. And you need to fill all this out to help you. So you've got your greeting, you're capturing the audience, introduction, your topics, and your transitions. And of course, you have your body, your main points, your sub points, your supportive views, next sub point, supportive views. A good speech follows a standard line. Then you have your transition to your next point, and it repeats. And then you have your conclusion and your call to arms at the end. So it helps you organize your entire speech. And it's very worthwhile task filling this in. You don't have to show this to anyone. You don't have to show your written speech, but it certainly helps in your delivery. That is presentation mastery. Those 5 projects will help you on your way. Let's now go into engaging humor. And I'm just going to have a quick drink of water before I go too dry. And warm up the vocal cords. Engaging humor. This is the same presentation mastery, but this has a bit more humor added to it. Nothing in presentation mastery says you can't deliver with humor. But this one, the emphasis is on humor, and it's an emphasis of understanding how you perceive humor. Everybody has different views of humor. Some people love disaster comedies because they can see the disaster going. You know, some mothers have them. That I can't stand that show because I don't like watching people that I can see ending up in disaster. Whereas wordplay, you know, Bud Abbott and Costello talking about who's on first. Different humor has different requirements. So this is about helping you understand where your humor is going from. And of course, how you use humor in a speech, especially in impromptu speaking. And it ends with a 20-minute speech, much like presentation mastery. And like all other paths, it starts with level 1, the icebreaker, evaluation and feedback, and research and presenting. It's the same in all of them, so I don't need to talk about those. Level 2, you do a quick questionnaire similar to the communications questionnaire about knowing your sense of humor. Actually, it's not a questionnaire, but we'll get back to that. It's knowing your sense of humor. So you get to reflect on yourself and connect with your audience. This is an option for all other projects in level 3. We get to do it in level 2. You do your mentoring, and then in level 3, you get to engage your audience with humor. How do you do humor? You do your 2 electives, and then level 4, the power of humor in an impromptu speech. This is not table topics, but if you're good at table topics, you'll like this one. You do your elective. Level 5, it's deliver your message with humor, which is your 20-minute speech with humor in it. You do your elective, and again, you reflect on your path. So knowing your sense of humor. This project is about what makes you laugh and sharing that with an audience. It's about delivering a collection of humorous stories in a speech. So in a 7-minute speech, you could probably do 3 2-minute funny stories. Short, sharp, to the point. You give those in a 7-minute speech. Again, it's open about what you're going to do. And then you need to ensure that you have at least one anecdote or story to entertain in that speech. So there is no real requirements on this other than knowing what you're talking about. Connecting with your audience, as I said, you can do this in every path. It's mandatory level 2 in engaging humor. This looks at understanding where your audience is and how you engage them. It's about connecting. It's about delivering an unfamiliar topic and making it understood. In Toastmasters, we are aware that we're talking to Toastmasters, but this one you can actually deliver outside if you are meeting for a work purpose or some other way. Again, you need to have a Toastmaster present to get it marked off. And you need to be aware of your audience. That is one of the biggest learnings out of this project. Knowing your sense of humor. This is focusing about how you feel about humor. What makes you laugh? What are your influences? As I said, I like wordplay. I like conceptual humor. I'm not really big on humiliation. I'm not really big on slapstick or anything like that. So it's understanding where you are. And again, you need to have one anecdote or story intended to entertain in this. Sorry, I've gone back. I've done connect with humor. Okay, so yeah, let's go to level 3. Engage your audience with humor. This is about delivering a 5 to 7 minute speech from your point of view as to what makes things funny. Again, an anecdote or a story intended to entertain and engage your audience. Level 4 is the power of humor in an impromptu speech. Now, I object to this being called an impromptu speech, and I'll give you the reason why. This project is about delivering a humorous speech at short notice. And it's about developing a method to give impromptu speeches and to adapt rehearsed stories. it is 2 to 3 minute speeches, much like table topics, but it's not. And I'll give you that when I get down to the impromptu speech topics resource. You don't get to choose which story you're going to give. That's the only impromptu thing. But you know the stories up front. And each story lasts for 2 to 3 minutes, and then you're given another story. It doesn't necessarily continue with the same theme. Both speeches are given at the same time. So it is effectively the same as a 5 to 7 minute speech with a little interaction with the Toastmaster halfway through. Both topics are selected at random. You don't know what you're going to be asked, but when you look at the impromptu speech topic, there are 12 speeches that they give you for topics. So you know how to research your topics. You're doing 3-minute speeches on 12 items, 10 of which you'll probably never use, but 2 of which will be chosen for you. I'm not really a fan of doing this. I would rather 100 different topics with themes, and then I could build the theme to the impromptu speech and deliver the theme along with some humor. So it is not necessarily totally impromptu. So you can work outside the square, give the Toastmaster of the day a larger choice. You don't need to just use these. There was in the old system, the same sort of thing where you have to give your Toastmaster a choice of 3 different speeches and you just have to deliver one. This is the same thing, except it's shorter and you deliver 2 speeches that you don't know which one they're going to choose. So be inventive, be brave, give your Toastmaster more options. And if you were me, go for themes. With level 5, it's delivering your message with humor. Again, this is a 20-minute speech. You have a speech outline worksheet. It's about delivering a longer speech with humor. It doesn't have to be one story that's funny. You can have several funny stories that lead to a conclusion. And the funniest story would be 3 stories that all lead to the same conclusion, then the 4th story, which leads to a completely different. Who knew? So you play around with what you're going to deliver. Again, you can use visual aids. You can also do this outside your club. The speech outline is very much as what we saw before. It's your greeting, capturing your audience, introducing your topic, and then your transitions. It's about your main points, secondary points, transitions within those with minor arguments. So it's a worksheet that you can use exactly like you did in the other presentation mastery. So I am just going to summarize them when I'm going to open up for questions. The keynote speakers is about learning how to deliver longer speeches, 20-minute speeches as a keynote speech. You learn along the way how you feel about your communication style, how you feel about your humor. The 2 paths are presentation mastery and engaging humor. So I don't know how we're going for time, but we have time for questions. Let's have a look at this. People would love the slides. Yes, I would love slides too. I've got a PDF of those. I'll put those in the chat in a second. I'll stop sharing the screen so I can see everything. Okay. Just sharing slides. Okay, I'll share the slides. If you have a question, unmute yourself, because I am happy that people ask me questions while I'm multitasking.
Okay, Michael, it's Carol here. Thanks once again. I've learned another couple of little tips from you today. I love what you do. And one of the things that resonated for me was the use of the speech outline worksheets. And I thought to myself, well, what a pity there isn't one for every project. Then I realized something that I had forgotten along the way, that in the resources, there is a generic worksheet for structuring that. And I thought that I would just mention it for others who might be looking. So you go to your library in your Basecamp school and look for resources, and then you can find the worksheet for your speech outline. Hope that helped.
Yep, that's good. There are a lot. If you go to or if you go to places like the Navigator and other things, there are resources everywhere that certainly help you. And I find them very useful. You know, a lot of these things I've been using, not only in the speeches that they're designed for, but in other things. Okay, I found it. It's now loading. Going back to the questions. 20-minute speech isn't overwhelming. I've just spoken to you for about 40 minutes on 2 items. It is just a case of knowing your material. It is about being prepared. Having 2 or 3 stories and transitioning between them to work up to a major point, or a humorous outcome. So you can do those in a different ways. So just embrace it, relax, and enjoy it. You get to be more descriptive because you have a longer period to talk to. Use that. Build up the suspense. Build up the arguments. Reiterate the arguments. You get to do a lot more in a 22-minute speech than you do in a 7-minute speech. You get to expand, and because it is a one-way speech, you get to preach, you get to evangelize, if you like. That's what you have to do to keep the audience engaged.
Lakshini has a question.
Thank you. Michael, I was wondering, do you know why the main project for some pathways is just a 22-minute speech, and for others it's a 6-month service, a project? Do you know why it's so different?
Different requirements. As I said, I've got there are 2 paths that have a requirement of a 22-minute speech. Engaging human presentation mastery. I put those into the keynote speaker format. Those that I put into the leadership service, yes, they require a 6-month service to your club, to your area, or district, or your volunteer organisation. But you can start doing that now. Even though you're doing your icebreaker, you're serving as a president, you're serving as a VPE, you won't get to reflect on that for 6 months, but you can do other things. So being aware that, yes, I'm going to have to reflect on my 6 months of being a president, you can do that halfway through your presidency. You can do that at the end of your presidency. So being aware that you will have those upfront says that you need to start thinking about them now. So it's not because you've got to do a 6-month stint and you can't do any speeches during that. You can be doing other speeches. There are a lot of things in pathways, and especially the other areas where your level 4 project will lead into your level 5 project. So it helps you achieve that level 5, but you're not even on level 5 yet, you're doing level 4. So you can use those. You can do a lot of different things to help you. Does that answer the question?
It does, Michael. It also seems that for experienced Toastmasters who are doing second, third, fourth pathways, it is a good idea, like Carol said, to open everything up and have a look rather than follow the sequence.
The trouble is, you need to know the end of the journey in order to know where you're going. So I try to look at the entire journey and plan every part of it, but you don't need to necessarily always get to the same result. Your plans are just plans. The journey is a journey. You can change what your plans are. You can change your journey destination. You still need to do the same sort of things to achieve the path, but it may not be what you're expecting when you started out. We need to be flexible and adaptive.
Yeah, thanks, Michael.
The 20 minutes excludes questions. No, we've got plenty of time for questions. These are questions on my presentation. There'll be general questions afterwards. Can I start on level 3 before level 1? No, you cannot. In theory, you can't. In practice, yeah, you possibly can, but I don't know why you would want to. Level 1 is about building or understanding where you're coming from. Level 2 is about reflecting on where you are and where you want to be. Level 3 is about starting to build on where you want to go. So if you don't understand where you want to go, how can you start building that? So you try to follow that sequence. You can look at level 1 and say, well, I'm going to give the same speech in level 3. There's nothing to stop you from doing that, but you're learning along the way. By the time you get to level 3, you'll be doing it better. Oh, did I not add? Oh, it's because someone's messaged me privately and I probably sent it to one person. Sorry. I will do that again.
Michael, there was a question from somebody on advice on how to build, your advice on how to build confidence.
Confidence is easy. You do it once, you don't fail, you get confident. You do it again, you don't fail, you get confident. You do it third time, you fail, you learn from that and do it again to take on those learnings. The more you do it, the more confidence you get. You step up, and if it's uncomfortable, accept that it's uncomfortable. Know in yourself that you're uncomfortable and try to push through it. But if you run away, you can't achieve. You may fail 100 times, but once you succeed, you'll know why you've succeeded. We don't really fail in Toastmasters. We learn. We don't do it right, but we learn. And we try to do it better the next time. We may not get it 100% right, but we'll learn. That's why we have feedback. That's why we have evaluations, to tell us what we've done well, where we've achieved, and then where would we likely improve. I take evaluations to be, what would I do to make this better? It's not about what they've done, it's about what I would do. And that gives a different perspective, because it's not helping, it's helping them because they're taking it from a different perspective. But it's helping me because that way I'm thinking about what I can do to do something. I've got to green, that's a good thing. That's my, choosing path. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Green, 50 minutes. Yes, we've got 10 minutes left. Is there a place?
Michael, that might be my question. You're just about to go on.
Okay.
Just where you've got the types of projects from your presentation, where I'm just wondering where to find that. So, you know, if members asked me how to pick a project and how they knew, you know, what the end goal was, just from what I've been looking at, I've sort of got things listed but haven't seen what the slide you shared about the types of
That
projects.
is my analysis. That is my analysis of the projects. That's my perspective. I could be wrong. The biggest one that I'm likely wrong is my weakest one, which is the relationship building, because I just looked at the level 5s and thought, oh, this is about this. This is about building teams, building individual groups. It's about relationships. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's my perspective. The groupings, those 4 groupings are my groupings, my analysis. You may look at it and come up with completely different analysis, different answers, different approach. We are all different and see things differently through different classes. So don't take it as being 100% correct. But as I said, we're all here to learn. I'm just sharing you my learnings. Is that
okay? Yeah, thank you. I'm just thinking I've clicked on dynamic leadership and I can see the 5 levels and the elective projects, of which ethical leadership is one. But how does one know what that involves, whether that's like what kind of project?
okay? Every one of the projects, and I've forgotten where this is, and I'll have to try to find it. Every one of the projects had a 1-page sheet about effectively what I've put in the presentation about what their aims are and what their deliverables were.
Ah, perfect. That's what I'm after.
Every project has those. So I can't remember where I got that, and you know, I just play around, look for things, and when I find something, I use it. I do have, you know, because they're all 1-page PDFs. I don't like 1-page PDFs. I did create a document at some stage, which just basically I put my 4 key areas, then the key projects of those key areas, and then I even went through and added the electives. I've got that somewhere, and if I find it in the next 5 minutes, I'll share it.
Thank you very much.
So that's all right.
Michael,
any other questions?
Michael, when
Yes.
it comes to topics for humor, are there any topics that you would advise Toastmasters to avoid?
Look, humor is one of those things. It's a case of know your audience. Blue humor is probably not ideal for a Toastmasters meeting, but if you've got if everyone's happy to have some blue humor, yeah, do it. If everybody, but you need to know your audience, and that's the key. So I would say there are no topics off limit. It's about knowing your audience. If you give a speech that people violently disagree with, it's not funny. So you've failed in your delivery. So know your audience. Be aware what your audience thinks is humor. Now, so we tend to go for the simple things, the visual or the easily explained humor. Puns are good. Wordplay is also good. But I would not say to anyone, don't do something. I would say, what are the consequences of doing it? And I'm not finding this document. This is the trouble when you have too many documents. Any other questions? I'll try to find it during the general question. Any other questions? We're at 60 minutes.
Oh, yes, Graham. It's Mary speaking. I just wondered I'm just curious to know, what does the word keynote really mean in relation to a presentation?
Keynote usually means main presentation with the main theme. So if you've got a keynote presentation at a district conference, it's about the theme of the district conference. It's the main theme, it's about whatever that theme may be. If it's about being, what was Tasmania? It was being a devil or something like that. I can't remember, but it's about the main theme of the conference. So the keynote is the main theme. It's just a way of, it's usually a longer speech and the person's going to cover everything.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Michael. Sorry.
Any other questions? I'll hand back to our Toastmaster.
Thank you, Michael. How wonderful to take some time and really consider the detail in those two pathways. We really appreciate that. Yes, so everybody join me in a round of applause for Michael. A silent round of applause. Thank you.